was looking for a position, answered a newspaper ad. I've been with Benedictine for a little over 20 years. So in 2000, there were still newspaper ads he responded to. Drove up the lane down here. They were looking for someone to run their Delaware program, which is an adult program for group homes and employment. Met with Sister Jeanette, and as she always did, made a decision and said, "Scott, you're hired." And I was like, "For what?" 21 plus years later, I'm still here. We're just a little south of $25 million annually for operating budget. People hear that number, they're usually like, and where are you? And we hire and we have about 350 to 400 staff. When you look at the totality of what we do, serving about 67 adults in homes, about 55 to 60 students throughout the year, it adds up. But as an organization that has everything that we do under one umbrella, from the adult program to employment to training to residential to a non-public school, there isn't another organization in Maryland that has the kind of depth and breadth of services. So we started off as a non-public special education school. Then they asked the question back in the day, what happens when they graduate? Well, they become adults. It doesn't mean that they still don't need services. So what are we going to do to fill that gap? And now we have, the most recent project, which was about 10 years ago, was building a universal design group home because those adults are now aging. And we needed to have a facility that would allow them to age in place. The student population, in all honesty, has been decreasing a little bit because the needs of the students that we get, the student profile, if you will, has been increasing. As public schools have built capacity to deal with students with intellectual and developmental disabilities and autism, the students that we used to receive are now being served in public schools. We support those students that have a higher level need that public schools cannot support. And we're able to provide an environment with our education residential program that is continuously educating and supporting that student, where in a public school you don't get that continuous support. We can also add occupational therapies, physical therapies, speech therapies to our program. That's all right there on campus. The challenges have always been staffing and funding, and that's where it boils down to. Because all of our funding comes from state and federal resources. So we really are tied to whatever rates the state may give or increases or the budgetary process at the state level. And then staffing has always been a challenge because of how we're tied to the state and federal dollars. Our wages are at times somewhat lower because we're constrained. As we come out of COVID, we're looking at where Benedictine is going to go next. And what we've started to develop is the beginnings of a strategic plan called Transforming Lives. And the first phase of that is transforming our campus to transform lives. The student profile we've seen has shifted over the years. Students who are autistic, who have more behavioral or communicative needs. And the campus that was built in the 60s for a much different student profile. And with the sisters leaving, we have a large convent space that is now vacant. So in order to better support the students and the staff, we're looking at how we transform that the convent space into a state-of-the-art residential facility for our students. And then what we need to do is start to continue to develop the other pieces of that, because part of transforming lives, the most important part of that is our staff. So how do we better support them? And not only through the environment that they work, through the transforming our campus, but also through better pay, better training, and improving their support, and not just relying on the dollars that we get from the state and federal resources. We learned a lot during COVID. We learned how committed and dedicated our employees are that showed up every day. And we also learned how resilient our students were. We also learned that the physical environment that we operate in needs to improve. And that is really that jump off part, because the environment that we have on that campus is amazing, and it allows our students and our adults to walk to campus, to be outside. It's very safe. In some ways, the beauty of our campus and the safety of our campus is a plus, and that's why we need to improve that campus, because part of it is work environment, and people want to work in an environment that is really state-of-the-art. And we have a good environment now. We need to take it to that next level. I also think the other piece is that we would be making a large investment in our staff and our employees in both training compensation, and benefits. I think those are the three pieces that we need: growth opportunities, physical campus, and employees. That's what makes Benedictine special. You need to get out there and tell the story of Benedictine. It doesn't mean that there's two paths. One is promoting the mission of Benedictine and what we do and the miracles that happen on our campus and in our homes every day. The other is to allow the folks that we support to live and grow in our community without standing out. And that is a unique balance, and one that I think we can do better at as we tell our story and who we are. And when we say miracles and success stories, it means something different to everybody. I mean, a success story for one of our students could be they sat down and ate an entire meal without having a behavior, or they picked up a fork and actually were able to eat that meal by themselves. Or one of our adults got a job that they've been wanting to have for years, and they're finally able to reach that potential. And that's why we do what we do.